Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Michael Levan, and today we are going into, I think this is the third or fourth Azure Cloud Native session that we've been doing monthly. Got a couple of awesome speakers for you today, talking about AI, talking about AKS security, and maybe overall Kubernetes security. How's it going, Nick?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah. So we have a theme of AI and security, AI and AKS security. So should be a good one. Two amazing speakers from the community. So hopefully you can learn from them.
Absolutely. And thank you for everybody that's signing on now. Thank you for everybody that's going to be listening. And we hope that you enjoyed today's session. Let's go ahead and bring on our first speaker here. Right. Hello. Feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Our camera's on.
Hello, hi, good afternoon, morning, for those who's listening to us today in this presentation and the sessions. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely.
Is my camera working?
No, it's black, so you may have to turn it on. Sorry, you don't want to disturb that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm just seeing it too. It seems like it's cutting in and out.
I'm not sure what's going on. I'm trying to fix it.
You see, I'm gonna try really quick to just remove you from the stage and then add you back. Sometimes that kicks things off. 1 sec.
Apologies, everyone. The technical issue.
Maybe
All
because
right, there we go. Yeah, and of course, if the camera doesn't work, it's totally fine. No biggie.
Yeah, you were seeing me, right? In the backstage.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So before we start, do you want to just give us an overview what your session is going to be about, Hejer?
So basically, we'll go today to see where you can find AI from Microsoft technologies, how basically you can integrate it, how you can start, where you want to find it, little bit of history, and then some use cases that you can mix and match within your applications, or what are the infrastructure basically that you can use from Microsoft native tools that you can use within your daily life or within your application, or while developing, what kind of services and solutions you can use as a developer, as a company, as an individual, how you start, where you start, and what are the different services and area that you can use AI with. And
so you get an overview of it. So yeah. So if we got any questions, we can just know. So look forward to it. So after you, the stage is all yours.
great. Thank you so much. I'm trying to fix my camera. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no problem at all. I actually went ahead and just put your screen share as the full layout. So luckily the camera's okay.
So you can hear me and you see me, right?
Yep, there we go. Perfect.
Great and fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. So my name is Hejer. I'm Microsoft MVP AI platforms, and it's a pleasure today to be part of this sessions. Thank you for joining. I want to spend a minute like framing how I think about AI transformation in this new era. Moving to the cloud it's a foundation for the digital capabilities that we deliver to our customers, people, developers. so they can realize the value, and then how can they fast achieve their business outcomes or their application outcomes or their services outcomes. So basically, we can see the fuss and then the noise around the AI these days, where we can basically see the different decisions, tasks are automated, decisions are being data-driven or AI-driven, sometimes with some recommendations. And then basically we are seeing a lot of opportunities for developers, for customers, for individuals to basically thrive and then take their current situation to the next level. Basically, right, let me do this. So like quick introduction about myself. I'm the head of technical solutions and co-founder at Insomea Computer Solutions. I'm also have different expertise in cloud computing, modern work and Office 365, Azure DevOps, and also help companies and startups build their applications and then move them to the cloud. I advocate usually for bringing more women and minorities into technologies. I'm part of a lot of global communities like Women Who Code and so on. And then I train diverse communities in IT and soft skills. With that, I just want to highlight that technologies is basically advancing globally. And everyone basically knows the large language models that basically are now available for everyone, like ChatGPT. Like now it's taking the world by storm, in a part because they can draw a vast store of data, leveraging the massive computing power available today in the cloud. And then we have seen these technology breakthrough with the customers, companies, technologies. It is not just for techie people anymore. Everyone can basically work with technologies, and especially in AI, to demonstrate capabilities, experience, and possibility to integrate whatever they want within the technology using the AI. So the world, as you may know, it's changing. So if you look back just a few years, we saw that organizations that had already invested in their own digital foundation were able to weather do the disruption of pandemic better than their peers. Or also we can see that technologies is bringing this up faster. And there is a lot of changes, like for example, in different industries. We saw also the economy changing and so on. So when it comes to AI, it is not new, and basically from what we say, it started with artificial intelligence when it went from 1915, and then it evolves up to today to get it to generative AI. And here we are talking about generative AI and its capabilities. So today we can see that the opportunity is here with the world-changing technologies. There is a potential to lead AI transformation, AI capabilities, and then there is a full potential of AI for developers. Talking about, for example, agentic AI, that basically they can work in it and use it. And then also it helps into transferring or potentially change businesses and change data and change employees and how the world is thinking about. There is basically a lot of services that were taken by Microsoft. Since long time ago, we were discussing and talking about the cloud, Microsoft Cloud, where there is a lot of infrastructure capabilities. People are moving to the cloud, where we are talking about automation, a lot of digital transformation to help businesses moving from paper to paperless. And then now we are into mode of AI transformation, where basically everyone is thinking about how we'll be using and developing tools and solutions are AI based. So there is a lot of people and things that we can do from that perspective. From native Microsoft tools, we have basically co-pilots, all type of co-pilots that are available to accelerate different type of productivities into Microsoft Cloud Services. And then also we'll see later on the leading AI platforms that are existent today within the Microsoft services as a native tools. So we can see that Microsoft is bringing a lot of services into and AI services into something called Copilot. So it started with M365 Copilot, and then we have Dynamics 365 Copilot. We have Copilot in Power Platforms, Microsoft Security Copilot, and then Microsoft GitHub Copilot. So after the partnership that happened with Microsoft and OpenAI, all the models, the solutions, the GPUs that are built to host OpenAI capabilities and services is basically there. And then what we can do is basically we can ourselves run our models around the AI capabilities on the Microsoft infrastructure. We have first the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Basically, you can integrate it with your applications on a daily basis. It is LLM plus your data plus the application of Microsoft 365, where it is embedded across all the suite of Microsoft 365. So at first it works alongside you. It is embedded in applications where people are using it on a daily basis. So basically it is integrated in Word, where we can be more creative using Copilot M365. You can get more analytic in Excel. You can also use it to draw and prepare your PowerPoint presentation and be more productive when it comes to Outlook, and ensure that you are more collaborative when it comes to Teams. So you can chat with one tool, and then we can also with M365 create your own agent with the small tasks that basically you can integrate it with SharePoint, with OneDrive, and so on. Another type of Copilot tools, which is Dynamics 365 Copilot. It has an integration with CRM, ERPs, and also you can use it as a automation for your tasks, and then we can also use it as a service to basically use the capabilities of OpenAI services natively, built into Dynamics 365. So with that, we have also Viva Sales. Many salespeople, if you are here, or if you're not sales, if into development, also you can, it is part of the Copilot, where you can basically connect data to the solutions, and then you can basically integrate it and support Dynamics 365 or Salesforce if you want to do this integration. So basically, with Dynamics Copilot, you can integrate it natively with Microsoft Sales, the sales part, like having some move forward very fast with AI assistant, like email replies from information requests to proposals. Marketing teams, for example, can get insights faster and easier using the natural language. Customer service agents resolve issues faster and with more relevant personalized recommendations. Also, we have operations managers can better predict and act and on supply chain disruptions, and vice versa. So you have a very diverse capabilities that you can basically work on it and use it. We have also, if we are a developer into AI and Power Platforms, which is a Microsoft native low-code solutions, you can basically work with AI. So the low-code and no-code environments are now more robust and basically efficient. Thanks to the AI, it will be deployed across Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, and AI Builder. So by adding Copilot across the Power Platforms brings AI-assisted development to help build solutions and provide suggestions for improvements. Also, where you can also integrate with Copilot Studio, that also it is a no-code and a low-code development environment where you can do the implementation of some servers. So developers of all kinds can now harness the power of Copilot in Power Apps using the natural language to describe what kind of application they want to build, and then instruct the Copilot how to refine basically what they are creating. They can create automated processes easily with Copilot in Power Automate. During, for example, they can also make some flows using Copilot. You just describe the process, and then it will basically doing the first iteration for you directly. Also, you can build conversational bots with the Power Virtual Agent, and you can basically incorporate AI capabilities into applications flow with AI Builder, which is basically part of the Azure OpenAI services. Basically, it allows developers to include low-code generative AI models into and templates into projects. This is also taking the developers and more AI native services and capabilities into actions and taking them to the next level. From security perspective, we have a new also Microsoft Security Copilot. It is combined the most advanced GPT models from OpenAI that basically Microsoft developed for us, and it's a currently native tool in Azure. Basically, it helps in being more effective and efficient at all roles you play. It helps in growing capabilities and skills. It helps in also supporting the workflows, especially to solve security challenges in the era of security. So basically, Security Copilot, it covers all the security features and vendors and all the third-party ecosystem and products, and it's growing, by the way. And it can be integrated with any of Microsoft security product in general. From Copilot users, they can basically use it. So by answering the prompt, and the example I'm going to show you today, it's an investigation for an incident that highlights each of the values associated with the security copilot and incorporates data integration with some of the Microsoft products, including Sentinel, including Defender 365, Defender Threat Intelligence, Microsoft Intune. What we did is we start asking questions, and then we can here see what are the IPs related to the malicious IPs that basically being detected, and you can see the incident severity, the status. You also can see different ITT entities like IP, host, and accounts. So with that, this covers the security part, which is also a native AI service that is available and then just ready to use. For developers, we have Microsoft basically using the GitHub as a service. I think many of us are using today the GitHub, especially for their internal and for professional development. And it is being used almost by 100 million developers around the world up to date. And then on the top of this, Microsoft built one of the big capabilities, which is Copilot for GitHub. Copilot for GitHub actually provides AI peer programmer that works with all of the popular programming languages, where basically you can get Copilot in actions, see what are the capabilities. For example, you can write whatever service you want to see, or basically you want to get from your Graph API the different calendar availability from one of your customers, or to create one of the services, or to create one of the API in your in your programming languages. So with Copilot GitHub, you can basically get it easily with one sentence. So that video, a small one, showed you a brief look how Microsoft Copilot GitHub transforms developer creating rules. So, and we can see a lot of developers are liking it and then using it in their daily life. And then it helps actually customers, developers to develop quickly their applications, and then the go-to-market of the application becomes more easier. So from GitHub Copilot to basically increase the developer capabilities, you can basically try Copilot, which is the trial, I think, is for free. You can also try to combine the capabilities of Dynamics, the integration with your native applications using Copilot for Dynamics. And for people that basically they want to use the low-code, no-code development, they can basically start with Copilot in Power Platforms or even Copilot Studio. I want to talk about how you can build AI platforms using Azure AI services, which are how you can experience building applications on your own, or what we call it today is build your own Copilot natively, easily, with a small clicks. That's where basically you need to try to leverage the cloud applications, plus the data that you are basically bringing on the table, and plus the AI service, is how everyday organization can stand out from the competition with intelligent application built with AI. So to develop a mission critical applications, we can use different capabilities from Azure AI services. The focus is basically there is 4 core categories of AI capabilities. With Azure's cloud application platforms, you can run a cloud app native application, for example, with Kubernetes services, or gain the productivity and rapid time to market benefit of, for example, of a platform as a service with app services, like apps running on AKS or app services can easily and natively embedded with AI services that are available in Microsoft. So Azure AI is designed to make it easy for developers and organizations to add AI capabilities to their applications without needs for extensive expertise in AI. While Azure AI helps usually developers to quickly build, deploy, and scale AI-enabled applications to take advantages of the scalability, security, compliance, and capabilities of Azure. So basically, to deliver the potential of AI and supercomputing performance, we need basically to have scaled applications with AI optimized services with large AI models, and that's why Microsoft created Azure Open AI Services. Now it has been replaced with AI Foundry as a name, where basically you can find and you can generate content. You can also summarize some content. You can generate code or also ensure that you have a semantic search. Since we talk about using the generative AI, the AI services today, the objective is to enable developers and organizations access and give them the right to access and use the most advanced AI models. Like, for example, you can find GPT-5, DAL, Codex, Gemini, all type of models that are available. And then you can basically have a different use cases, including, for example, writing assistance, as I mentioned, code generation, reasoning over data for influencing and comprehension. So there is a lot of AI models and services, and you can do any specific scenarios using REST API or using the models hyperparameters to adjust the tone or output and etc. So this slide shows you 3 simple examples of how the Azure Open AI services allow you to generate content using the API. So you can build prompts that asks if you want, for example, to generate text, database queries, or images. Like, for example, you can get any of the prompts. So whatever prompt you will be doing, even from simple text to simple code, until you get real a picture that can be your response and generate it. And I think most of us are using today the capabilities of ChatGPT to answer these questions on a daily basis. So Azure OpenAI allows basically to provide additional context to your problem domain. Of course, you can manually include all of these details in every single prompt, but with the OpenAI services, basically you can also set context that can apply to multiple prompts. So let's take that example from the previous slide where we asked the OpenAI to create a tagline for ice cream. But instead of just a generic tagline, let's also provide more context about our business. The context, for example, here includes more details in the ice cream, company's unique product catalog, store location in the around, for example, Phoenix, Arizona, and the strategic global the company has to shift upmarket. So we'll make sure that the agent logic and reasoning are rigorous, intelligent, and easy to understand. We'll identify more data, we'll give more context, so we'll get a very reasonable answer, like with a more logic and with a more emotions, let's say, into the text or the answer from the OpenAI. You can also integrate the OpenAI with other AI service, like for example, cognitive services, ChatGPT. To also you can you bring ChatGPT models to deliver net new intelligent experience as well. I prepared for you a quick demo where your organization or you as a developer, you can get more insights, and you can basically get to create your own small application with OpenAI service by adding your own data.
We are now announcing a new capability in Azure OpenAI Service, which allows organizations to use Azure OpenAI models on their own data. With just a few clicks, you can run these cutting-edge models on your own data. This means that businesses can create applications that base responses on their own organizational data with natural language processing. Plus, businesses can use these models to chat, view data citations, and customize chat experiences based on your data. Once ready, you can also publish a web app and share it with your users and customers. Azure OpenAI Service makes it easy for developers to deliver the best business solutions and personalized experiences for end users in a safe and compliant way. Visit aka.ms/AOAI Service to learn more and apply for access to Azure OpenAI Service.
So that was a quick demo. We have talked about Copilot, GitHub, meetings, Microsoft integrations, like for different kind of applications, M365, Microsoft Teams integrations, like in different type of services and solutions. And then basically there is hundreds, let's say, or millions of use cases that basically you can build or you can have a part of your services. Like for example, you can create you can basically create different type of so basically you can create different type of scenarios and use cases using OpenAI as a native tool or OpenAI services, or basically you can use it as a ready-made scenario from the existing Copilot services. Like for example, you can whether prefer to use the Copilot for M365 in Teams, to get the transcript of the speeches or captioning from any videos or from any discussions, or you can basically use the Azure Cognitive Services, which is part of the native tools of the AI founders or the AI capabilities. You can also extract text from documents and structure using the no-code or low-code using, for example, Copilot Studio, or basically you can use the native capability of AI Foundry on the Azure Applied AI. So basically, developers has the possibility to also choose, or even normal users or sample user can use one of the capabilities on AI. We can see basically that AI will reinvent the industries and everything, and will bring innovation on the table, from financial institution to sustainability, to manufacturing, to nonprofit, and so on. You can start by getting your data ready, and also you can start by creating your AI powered applications through different offering, and then also you can get started with the Azure AI Foundry and Open AI services. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for seeing the session. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer meantime. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Looks like
Hopefully everyone got an overview of OpenAI offer. So
Sorry?
I know, I hope everyone got an overview of what OpenAI is, how you can use it for a use case. And
Thank
it's
you.
very crucial when you do it in projects, just to look at how they can add values to your project.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So we got no questions. So I think you explained it well, Hejer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Yeah. So you're welcome to stay on or listen to other speakers talking about AKS security, or you can drop. Depends on how you are. What?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for having me today. Have a
No
great
worries.
day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, and let's go ahead and introduce our next speaker to talk about all things AKS security. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Why don't you give us a little overview of yourself and what you're going to be talking about today?
Yes. Hello, everyone. As you can probably hear, I'm quite sick, so I hope you can still understand me.
Thank you for joining anyways. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be here. Today I want to talk about security in AKS, especially for developers. The reason why I came up with this session is I myself have a developer background, and in my daily job, I see many developer tools who have to manage their own cluster. They don't have infrastructure teams or system teams who can do that. And it's possible with the cloud, but it also allows you to make many mistakes that can compromise the security. And so the idea for today is that I'll just give you an overview of the features we have that are easy to use as developers, and it will make your cluster way more secure. So the plan for today is we're going to start with the authentication and authorization. That's probably the most important topic, and also the topic that's configured wrong most of the time. Then we're going to take a look at Entra Workload ID. We take a look at a private AKS cluster, what it is, how it works, and we also take a look how we can manage our secrets. If you're interested in the slides, you can scan the QR code, or you also can find them on my GitHub page. So before I get started, a couple sentences about myself. My name is Wolfgang Ofner. I'm a freelance cloud architect. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I focus on Azure. Lately, mostly on architecture, security, and governance, but I also help teams with Kubernetes and DevOps. If you have any questions after the session, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in more of these topics, I have a blog where I post regularly, and I also have a YouTube channel where I post a new video every week. And with this, let's get started and talk about authentication and authorization in AKS. So when you create a new AKS cluster, you have the option to select between 3 authentication modes. The first one is called local accounts with Kubernetes RBAC. That's the default one. This means if you use, for example, the Azure CLI and don't provide any configuration, AKS will use this one. Then the next one is Entra ID authentication with Kubernetes RBAC. And the last one is Entra ID authentication with Azure RBAC. And if you just remember one thing of this slide, remember that Entra ID authentication with Azure RBAC, the last option, is the best one. And the first one, local accounts, is the one that's used most of the time, but it's the most insecure one. And now let's take a look why it's the case. Also, if you use the Azure portal, you have a drop-down menu where you can select the 3 options. So as I said, the local accounts with Kubernetes RBAC, that's the default option. It's great if you want to get started. It's very simple and fast to set up. But one of the downsides is there's no link between Entra and AKS. So if you want to do any kind of authorization, you have to use the built-in Kubernetes tools. And this is already where it gets complicated for developers. As a developer, I want to use Azure tools. I know my development environment. I don't want to dive into Kubernetes and figure out how this works. And the second downside is that the access token is stored unencrypted in your kubeconfig file. This means anyone who has access to your machine can read it and steal it, or you could check it into your GitHub account by accident, and then the entire world can access your cluster. And this is how the config file looks. You have some basic information like the name of your AKS cluster, the server, and down here you have the access tokens. And now let's switch over to the terminal and let's take a quick look how this looks like and how it can be stolen. So here in this terminal, I already configured the connection to my Kubernetes cluster. So if I do a kubectl get namespace, I get all the namespaces, and I can also do a kubectl create namespace and call it demo. So this works because I'm the administrator. Kubernetes didn't check what permissions I have. It only checked I have the token, and so I'm the admin. If you take a look at the token, it's the same here. And to show you how we can steal it, I'm just going to copy this and then move over to a second machine. And if I execute here kubectl get namespace, I get an error message because I haven't configured a Kubernetes cluster connection. So as expected, it doesn't work. But if I open now the kubeconfig file and I paste the token I just stole, then I save this. And if I do now a kubectl get namespace, suddenly I have full access to the cluster. And I can even delete stuff. For example, kubectl delete namespace demo, and the namespace is gone. And also nobody knows who I am because I only use the token and I don't have an identity behind it. And that's the reason why the local accounts with Kubernetes RBAC is the worst option we have. But it still makes sense sometimes to use it, but you have to use it wisely. So I only use it if I want to quickly show something. Like, for example, when I record a demo, a video, I want to show something in Kubernetes. I don't care about the authorization because I will delete the cluster in an hour again. So I just use this. And Microsoft recommends it to use it if you don't have any users in your Entra. But since we are already using Azure, we have Entra, and if I have external users, I could just invite them. So to me, that's not really a reason why you should use this. And the second downside is that the user management can become very complicated because you have to create the users inside the cluster. You have to provide access tokens to the user and manage everything. So again, as a developer, I don't care about all these things, and it's just confusing. And in general, it is recommended to disable local accounts for security reasons because they can easily be exploited. And as we've seen, they just give full admin access and you can do whatever you want. Then the second option we have is Entra ID authentication with Kubernetes RBAC. That's a better option, but I have to admit I've never seen it in a real-world project. Because either you go full Azure, this will be the third option, or you don't care about the authentication, then you go local accounts. But just so that you have heard about it, that's a mix. So first, we do the authentication with Entra. This means we have to log in with our Entra users, but then Kubernetes checks what authorization we have. This means what permission inside the cluster. The way this works is we create the cluster, and then an admin configures the rules and rule binding between the Kubernetes rules and our Entra users. But additionally, our Entra users or also groups need the Azure Kubernetes cluster user role in Azure. This role is needed to download the kubeconfig file. So even though we configure everything in the cluster, we still have to use a bit of Azure RBAC. And the reason why this can be a problem is if you take a look here at this role. So here we define a role inside Kubernetes. We give it a name, in this case, reader, because we only want this role to be able to read objects. But now it's already getting complicated because I have to know what objects do I have in Kubernetes. So for example, here I have pods, services, endpoints, and then I have to know what verbs can I use on this object to read them. And the first one would be get. That's the most obvious one. But you also have other verbs like list and watch. And it does not end there. Like we have deployments, daemon sets, cron jobs. So it's a very long list and you can easily misconfigure it. And you have to know a lot about Kubernetes. Again, as a developer, I don't care too much about this. I just want that my users have read access. But it does not stop there. So once you have the role configured, we have to do a role binding. So this means we assign a user to the role. And we have to do this with the Entra ID of our user or group. This means I can't even write my email address. I have to go to Entra, look up my user, find the ID, and then provide the ID here. So all of this, very complicated. And if we test it now, and we do a kubectl get all, then we can see here in the red box that we get a pod. That's everything as expected and great. But we also get 2 error messages because here we don't have access on the replication controller. And down here, we also don't have access on the horizontal pod autoscaler. So this could be that the administrator configured the role wrongly, which is bad, or everything is set up as intended, but then the developer gets an error message all the time, which is also bad. So as I've seen, in general, I don't think it's a great option. One upside is that the user management is easier than with local accounts because you can at least use the ID of Entra. And Microsoft recommends this option if you want a portable cluster. Although I've never seen this in any project. But what portable means is you already have all the rules and the rule binding inside the cluster. And if you want to move, let's say, from AKS to the Google Cloud, you create a cluster there and you only have to change the ID of the rule binding. So in theory, this could work, but I just don't see it practically. The downsides are that the auditing of the access can be really difficult because I have to find all the rules, all the role bindings in all namespaces. So I have to check everywhere. Then I have to check the IDs in Entra. This means once I find the role binding, I have to go back to Entra, check there. Maybe it's a group. Then I have to check who is in this group. And it can be quite a pain. And the last option, that's the best option, is Entra ID authentication with Azure RBAC. With this option, we manage everything with the Azure RBAC system. This means I, as a developer, already know how Azure RBAC works because I use it every day. So I can just apply the knowledge I already have and manage my cluster with this. This means I can assign permissions or roles to users and groups, and these permissions apply to what they can do inside the cluster. For example, if I want my users to be able to only read objects, then I can apply the Kubernetes reader role, and that's it. They have read access. And since everything is Azure managed, it's quite easy, quite transparent. That's the recommended way how to secure your cluster. With this approach, again, we need the Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster User role. So the users are able to download the credentials, and then we additionally have to assign what permissions they should have. So if you take a look at the screenshots on the right, I have the cluster user role to download the credentials, but I'm also the cluster admin. This means I can download the credentials, and then I have full access to the cluster. As is common with Azure RBAC, we can use built-in roles, or we can also create our own roles. And these roles can be assigned to the entire cluster or to specific namespaces. The only downside is if you want to apply roles to specific namespaces, you have to use the Azure CLI to do the role assignment. And you also have to use the Azure CLI to see what roles are assigned to specific namespaces. You don't see it in the Azure portal. But overall, it's just a small downside, and it's very easy to configure and manage with Azure RBAC, and therefore, that's the option you should use. Next up, we have Entra Workload Identity. Before we talk about this, let's talk quickly about what identities are and how they're used in Azure. So in Azure, a resource can have an identity. This is similar to your passport. If you want to cross a border, you go to the border agent, show them your passport, and they can verify that you are the person who owns the passport, you are who you claim you are. They can check if you have your visas, if you're allowed into the country, and if everything is okay, they let you in. The same with identities. We can assign identities to Azure resources, and they cannot be stolen because they're linked to our Azure resources. On the other side, if you have a username and password, and if you go back to our border example, if I only need a password to be able to cross a border, it's very insecure because they don't know who I am. The border agent only knows I have the password and you'll let me through. But if the person behind me hears me saying the password, they can reuse it and also can get in. And if I just write my password on a piece of paper, lose it, suddenly everyone has access. So from a security perspective, you should always use identities and not username and passwords. In AKS, we can have an identity, but this identity is assigned to the entire cluster. This can be sometimes useful. For example, if you want to allow your cluster to pull images from a container registry, then you can assign this to the entire cluster and not your application itself. But sometimes you want that your applications have separate permissions. For example, if you have a test and production environment, then the test environment should connect to the test database and the production environment to the production database. And this can be achieved with Entra Workload Identity. With this feature, we can assign identities to our pods. And then the pods can use this identity to access other Azure services. And the great thing about this is they don't need a password. This means you don't have to manage a password. Passwords or secrets cannot get leaked, and you don't have to rotate them to keep them secure. There are a couple of setup steps involved. So first, you have to have the OIDC, that's the OpenID Connect issuer enabled on your AKS cluster. You can either do this when you create a new cluster, or you can update your cluster to enable it. And then you have to set a couple labels and annotations on your pod and service account. Since we don't have much time, I don't want to go into the details, but the way it works is you have a managed identity, and then with the labels and annotations, you assign them to a service account, and then the service account is assigned to your pod. And when your pod makes a request, then Kubernetes sees what identity is attached to your pod and uses this identity. And these are the first 3 steps here. So Kubernetes uses the identity, sends it to Entra. Entra checks if it's valid, what permissions this identity has, and if everything checks out, then it sends back an Entra access token. And this token has all the permissions this identity has. And with this token, our application can access other Azure services, for example, a database, a key vault, or what else it needs. It never needs a password, just sends the token, and it gets access. So we talked about the authentication. This means we can log in into our cluster. Our applications can securely access other services. And the last of the big topics I think are important for security is the cluster access itself. By default, a Kubernetes cluster is available from the internet. That's great because we can easily access it. But on the downside, attackers can also try to get in. And therefore, it is recommended to make your cluster private. And a private cluster, the naming can be a bit confusing. So I had a couple teams who were shocked to make the cluster private because nothing would work anymore. But all this does is it makes the API of the Kubernetes cluster private. I'm going to show you in the next slide what this exactly means, but your workload, for example, if you have a website running on your cluster, all of this is not affected. And the second upside of this approach is if you make the API private, then all the communication between the worker node and the master node are over a private connection. By default, they are over the internet, which is slower. It could be insecure in theory, but with this, everything stays in the Microsoft private network. And the way this works is we have here on the left side in the red box our master node. In simplified terms, that's the brain of our cluster. And in the green box on the right, we have our worker nodes. This is where our pods are running and our applications are running. And if you make the cluster private, then only this blue box, the API, is affected. And this API controls everything. So when we do a kubectl, like in the demo before, I connect to this API and then execute the command. And also deployments, updates, everything is over this API. The downside of this approach is, since the API is private, I have to find a way how to access it. And there are different solutions. The first one would be to use Azure Bastion, then a virtual machine as a jump box, and then access from the virtual machine our AKS cluster. The entire setup looks like this. It's quite complicated, to be honest. So if you take a look in the red box on the right side is our AKS cluster. And if you make the cluster private, then it automatically creates a private endpoint that's attached to the subnet of the AKS. And it also creates a DNS zone. Then what we have to do is, in the blue box here, create Azure Bastion. That's a jump box or jump host where we connect securely over the internet. And Azure Bastion redirects our request over a prior connection to another resource. In this case, it's a virtual machine. But then we also have to implement VNet peering. This means we have to connect the VNet from the VM to our AKS cluster. And we also have to configure the DNS for the VNet. That's down here. Otherwise, the VNet can't resolve the private endpoint DNS. I know it's a lot of information quite quickly, but I just want to show you it's possible, but it's quite complicated to set this up. Another option would be to wrap our command in the Azure CLI command AKS command invoke. So if you take a look at the screenshot here, is we can execute AKS command invoke. We provide the name of our AKS cluster, the resource group, and then inside the command parameter, we write what command we want to execute. This works. I don't need additional services or tools. The downside is it's quite slow because it's routed through Azure. So it might take up to 10 seconds for the command to execute, and it's a lot to write. So if I have a different command, I have to change everything again. So it's also not the greatest solution. Another option would be to use a VPN or express route. But again, these are additional services. They cost something. Express route needs your ISP involved. Again, quite complicated. But fortunately, Microsoft just released a new feature how we can access our AKS cluster through Azure Bastion without the need of a jump box. And we also don't have to configure the DNS. So all we have to do is we use the AKS Bastion command. Then we provide the name of our AKS cluster, the resource group, and the ID of our Bastion. This creates a tunnel connection. And after this, we can just use normally the kubectl commands as if we were connected to a public API or cluster. And the way this works is we have the same setup as before, but we don't need this jump box and we don't have to care to the DNS. So I, as a developer, just connect to Azure Bastion, and then Azure Bastion can directly access the AKS cluster. So it's very easy to set up. There's no maintenance involved, and it's also very fast. So now our API is private, but the container registry is still available on the internet. So it would make sense to also make the container registry private. The reason why we're using Azure Container Registry is most of the time that we want to store our images in a private registry, and also because it's very fast to download the images if both the cluster and the registry are running in the same data center. Another idea of this is if you keep the registry private, everything inside our cluster is private. This means nobody can push any vulnerable images to our registry, and the Kubernetes cluster wouldn't download them. So if you take a look how the whole setup works is, by default, we have a Azure Container Registry that's available from the internet, which is great because the developers, our DevOps pipelines can access it, but also, again, attackers can try to access it over the internet. And it seems a bit counterintuitive, but if you have an AKS cluster that pulls images, it always pulls the images over the internet. Even if the cluster and the registry run in the same subscription, resource group, data center, location, everything is equal, it still uses the internet. And the solution for this would be we add a private endpoint to our container registry, and then the AKS cluster can download the images over a private connection. This means no internet is involved, and we also shut down the internet connection for potential attackers. So all our containers are safe. What's great about this approach is, first, obviously, it's more secure, but also our developers don't have to change anything. Because when AKS pulls the image, it resolves the name or the URL of the container registry from the private DNS zone, and it just points to the private endpoint. So we don't have to change anything in the pull. What we have to change or think about is how can we deploy new images or push new images to the container registry. If you use, for example, Azure DevOps and the Microsoft hosted agents, they have to connect over the internet to the container registry. And since we deactivated this, it's not going to work anymore. The solution would be to run your own agent inside the same VNet or in a peered VNet. And for this, Microsoft has managed DevOps pools, which is very easy to set up, very cheap. But again, this would be way too much for today. Just remember that's something you have to think about when you make everything private. Then the last topic for today is how to manage our secrets. So far, we made our cluster private, container registry private. We know how to log in, but sometimes we still need secrets. For example, if we want to access a third-party API or another service that doesn't support managed identities, there are still secrets we have to manage. And with the key vault provider for Secret Store, that's an extension for AKS, we can mount secrets, keys, and certificates from an Azure Key Vault to our pods. This means, again, developers don't have to change anything. It's just how we provide the secrets to our pods. There are a couple of advantages of this approach. The first one is we can automatically rotate our secrets, because if we change it in the Key Vault, it is automatically synced to the Key Vault, to Kubernetes, and then the application has the new secret. But if it's needed, we can also create Kubernetes secrets. This means the extension reads the secret from the Key Vault and then creates a secret inside the Kubernetes cluster. And all of this allows us for separation of concerns. This means if you have an infrastructure team, or maybe in the future, the infrastructure team can take care of this, and I, as a developer, just consume the secrets. I don't care where they're coming from. I just know they're there. And the way this works is we have our Kubernetes API that tells kubelet create a new pod. This would be here. And then kubelet tells the Secret Store driver to create a temp volume. And at the same time, the Secret Store driver checks the Secret Store provider. This is our Azure Key Vault extension to get all the secrets. Since the Key Vault extension has our Key Vault configured, we can now download the Key Vault secrets, return them to the driver, and the driver attaches them to our pods. This can be as secret, as volume, or as environment variable, whatever we need or want. And this is everything I wanted to show you today. I just have 2 more slides with ideas in case you're interested in more security, so you know what you should Google, what to look up. But I think I said in the beginning, Kubernetes is such a massive tool. Like we talked probably a week about security, and it goes deeper and deeper into Linux. Today we only looked at Azure features. So yeah, there's way more to be said about. But if you're interested, Azure provides more security features. For example, with Azure Linux, we can install Azure policies. We have the Defender for container to scan our containers. Or if you want to go even further into the Linux side, we can validate our images. We can limit the privileges our pods have. We can also reduce the capabilities, or we can also go to secure computing. This is where we change how the kernel of the Linux works or what access it has. So you can go as far down the road as you want. But yeah, for now, I think that's enough. And thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Or if you're interested in the topics I present today, I have long YouTube videos where I explain step by step how to set it up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it. Great session. Just looking here. I don't think any questions came in. But of course, if anybody that's listening and watching has questions after, we're all readily available on the socials.
I know places still use Dropbox instead of like Azure Bastard, so it's so funny when you put that slide in. Because like VPN just SSH tunnel in there, then it tunnel into the AKS cluster. So it's quite cool.
Yeah, it's actually good that the last session was postponed because this feature was released, I think, a week ago. So I could
Okay.
add it to the slides.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, very cool. Well, thank you so much for the session today. We really appreciate it, and especially thank you for coming on, even though you're not feeling well. I definitely know the feeling of going on a virtual meetup or a virtual conference that you have to talk for over an hour, and not feeling too great. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great having me. Thanks.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that being said, that brings us to the end of our session today. Nick, anything that you'd like to leave everybody with?
Nope. So I hope you learn something with AKS security and Azure OpenAI. I look forward to our next session next month.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.